What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Canadian Football Fantasy Fix for Week 12 of the 2021 CFL season. I'm Ryan Coop here with your running back preview this time around. If you missed it, go back, check out. I've got my Week 12 quarterback preview out already, and I'll be previewing the wide receivers and the defenses on Thursday. And, of course, on Friday, I'll have a depth chart update as well to help you get you all ready for week number 12 of CFL Fantasy. Let's dive in and take a look at the running back options for this week. Here are a lot of the main options for the week. I've got a couple other side options to consider as well, but looking at it from top of the price point to down the charts here, most expensive running back option on the week is Andrew Harris of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Now, Harris did leave the game against Edmonton this past week with an injury at around halftime and did not return, and I don't believe he's been practicing yet to this point this week. So I'm thinking Harris is going to be out for this game. It seems pretty likely and could be out longer term because earlier today the Bombers did bring in running back Shaq Cooper, who was recently released by the BC Lions. So that could be a sign that Harris is out for a while. If magically he is in the lineup this week, I still think it's not a great play, given his price point, 27.3 points. He hit 30 points against Edmonton in week number 10. But since then, he, other than that, really on the season, his highest total's kind of been around 15, 16 points. So I would say stay away from Andrew Harris regardless of whether he plays this week. William Stanback, I think, is a good potential option this week, but I'm a little bit cautious on that play as well. If you're looking to get full 2.5 points per $1,000 out of him, you need 22.4 points. And Stanback does have the ability to put up some big games. He does face Toronto this week, who he put 25.4 points against back in week number 8, a couple games ago for Montreal. And, he does have the ability to have a big game, but I'm not sold on him purely because he doesn't get involved in the passing game enough. He only has, I think, 2 touchdowns on the year. So a 100-yard rushing game, is not going to get you on your way to a 2.5 points per $1,000, a 22.4 point week. He is coming back after missing the last 2 games. The last one, he looked like he was ready to go, but missed the game last second due to food poisoning. So he has been practicing this week and presumably will get the start for Montreal. Faces an Argos defense that in their past couple of games, in their past 4 games, has given up in 3 of them at least 20 points to running backs. So I think that Stanback could be a pretty good play this week, especially, Matt Schultz, still a relatively inexperienced starting quarterback. Maybe they try to lean on him a little bit more to help there, but given that, more often than not, he doesn't get enough usage to hit that 22 points, I think it's a cautious play. It's a yellow light this week on William Stanback. Sticking with the first name William and going to Saskatchewan, talk about William Powell of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. $8,411 is his price. You're looking to get at least 21 points out of him. In his last game back in week number 10 against Calgary, he put up 12.7. In the match with Calgary the week before that, he put up 21.6, which was his best total on the year. Other than that, his best total of the year coming at 15.7 points back against Toronto in week number 7. So I'm saying stay away from Powell at an $8,400 salary this week. Yes, he had the good game against Calgary a couple of weeks ago, but much the same way as Stanback and maybe a little more so with Powell, he doesn't get the overly used a whole ton to the point where his production and his usage level is going to hit you the points for his price point. He's averaging just 12.8 points on the year. And the Riders are going to be getting a boost this week at receiver with Duke Williams and seemingly Shaq Evans in the lineup this week as well. So I could see them leaning a little more on the passing game, and this being one of those weeks where Powell gets a little bit less usage. So I say stay away from him at his price point of over $8,000. I'm also saying stay away from John White. He has missed the past couple of games for Toronto. He did start practicing a little more this week. I believe he's been a full participant in practice so far and could be returning to the lineup. But White on the year really hasn't had very many strong games. He had one game against Winnipeg with over 20 points. Other than that, most of his games have come under 10. And he splits the backfield with DJ Foster. So I don't think White will put you up 17.6 points. I think that's a tough total for him to hit, especially against an Alouettes team that's been pretty good against the run. The best out of all of the teams playing this week. So stay away from John White. I put him in the red-white category. Kadeem Carey of the Calgary Stampeders is next up, $6,728. 16.8 is his full value production threshold. And he's been averaging 12.3 on the year through 10 games. He will be the starting running back for Calgary once again, of course. Last week put up 8.6 against BC. In the 2 games against the Riders, who they do play again this week, a couple weeks ago, 10.9 and 22.8, which was his best total of the year. So some decent games there against Saskatchewan for Kadeem Carey. It seems like they're getting him a little bit more involved in the offense in recent weeks, but I have a hard time recommending him as a green light option, mostly because he has had some up and down games, and it kind of seems if he's not getting in for a touchdown, Carey is a bit of a disappointment running back wise. He has 4 or 5 weeks where he was putting you up 1.5 points per $1,000 or less on the year. So I think Carey could be a good option this week against the Riders, but I think he could also not deliver you the value you're looking for. Sean Thomas Erlington, I also say yellow light on him. I always do that with Hamilton running backs generally because I think there's so many guys that get the ball. You have Thomas Erlington, you have Jackson Bennett maybe gets some carries in there. Malik Irons last game I think had 5 carries for Hamilton. And then you get the receivers in there. Brandon Banks might get a couple. Braylon Addison might get a few. Tim White potentially. So there's so many options to run the ball in Hamilton that you don't see a back like Thomas Erlington really put up massive carry totals game in and game out. Last game for him against the Argos, he put up 14.9. The game before that against Montreal, he put up 10.6. I do like Thomas Erlington because the matchup with Ottawa is good. They've been the worst team in the league against running backs this year. And you're only looking for 15.5 points for Sean Thomas Erlington, which I think is doable. But his highest total on the year is 14.9, which was last game. So he hasn't exactly broken out a huge game for you yet this year. And I think we're probably going to see somewhere in maybe maybe he hits the 15-point mark, but I could see something around a 10-point week for him once again this week. So I'm cautious on the Ticats starting running back and getting into a couple of options I really do like for this week. It stars DJ Foster of the Toronto Argonauts, $5,116. He was the starting running back for the past 2 games with John White out, which in the first of those 2 games in Week 10, he put up 25.4 points and then put up 8.8 in the second one only, so a bit of an up and down there. But the price is still pretty low on Foster, which makes him an intriguing play, even with White back in the lineup, because the Argos find ways to use him in the passing game, which is where he picks up a lot of his yardage. He gets in, he puts up the touchdowns for you. If we look at Foster's numbers on the year, even in sort of his down weeks, his lowest total on the year is 7.7 points, which if you're looking to get 12.8 out of him, even on his bad weeks, you haven't really missed a whole ton. 5 points, that's something you can easily make up elsewhere. So I do like Foster as a potential option this week. I don't know if he fully covers it, but I think he comes pretty close enough to get in that full value where even if he doesn't, it's not disappointment. It doesn't hurt your week. And I'm excited to see what he can do out there on the field again, coming off the bye week for the Argos. The other option I really like, and this is my favorite running back option of the week, Brady Oliveira of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Last game against Edmonton, he was the backup to Andrew Harris coming into the game. Harris went down at just before halftime. Oliveira came in the second half and had a monster game, put up 14.4 fantasy points in just the second half alone, and covered over the 12.8 points you're looking for from him. So I think, given the matchup with BC, who do give up 17.1 points on average to running backs, and Oliveira had a bit of jump to him in that game, and he's trying to make a name for himself to be the future starting running back here in Winnipeg once Andrew Harris does inevitably retire. So I think we could see some jump in the step from him if we get to see him start again this week, which I imagine. There's also maybe a bit of extra pressure now that the Bombers have brought Shaq Cooper in. That Oliveira's got to perform here to keep that starting job while Harris is out of the lineup. So I really like him and what we've seen from him in the starting role this year to be able to cover that 12.8 points. I think he's an explosive running back, a dynamic player, and I think he'll get his fair share of workload in this one to cover the points you are looking for from Oliveira. I'm saying stay away from James Butler of the BC Lions. Last week he didn't do too bad, 12.4 points. And you know what? On a couple of games this year, he has actually hit full value, which is surprising to say for a BC running back. 17.7, 11, 13.3, 2.4, 8.4, and 12.4 are his totals in the 6 games he's played on the year. The reason I'm still saying stay away from him, though, is just it's really hard to bank on production from a team that doesn't run the ball, and he's facing a Bombers defense that has been pretty good this year, to say the least. They haven't been as good against the run, but I think Butler gets a lot of his production from the passing game or from touchdowns. He's not going to get the rushing yards necessarily. So the Bombers shut down the passing game better than anybody, and they've been shutting the run game down pretty good as well. In their past 3 games, they've given up under 13 points to running backs after, earlier in the year they were giving up over 20s quite often. So I think that's a tough matchup against the Bombers this week for Butler, and I'm saying stay away there. And then the other presumed starter of the week, Delance Turner of the Ottawa Redblacks, started the past 2 games in place of Timothy Flanders, took the job from him. Both games against Montreal, 11.6 and 3.2 were his point totals in those 2 games. So the price is low. The total you're looking for from him is low. You just want 10 points out of him. That's decently doable if he can get in for a couple catches. That certainly helps pad that. But I'm not sold on him having a big game. He has, 11.6 2 games ago was solid. But last time was a disappointment for myself and many who slogged him into the lineup. And, Ottawa's kind of in next season mode at this point. So will they be rotating different guys in and out of the lineup? What will the offensive lineup look like at the start of the game or by the end of the game? That may differ. So I say be a little cautious on Turner, even at a cheaper price, as he faces the Ticats this week. Now, getting into a couple of the other potential backup options here, I've got Timothy Flanders here on the chart. I'm saying stay away from him. He has been a healthy scratch the last 2 weeks. I assume he will be again, and it will be Turner getting the start. Even then, I would say much for the same reasons. A bit more of an expensive price and unlikely to play. I would say stay away from Flanders this week. Of course, check the depth chart out on Friday as well, just to make sure who's starting at that position. I'm also saying stay away from Cameron Artis-Payne. He has been out of practice a couple days this week due to illness, and William Stanback is back practicing. So, and presumably will be getting this start for Montreal this week. So I don't like Artis-Payne at a $5,000 salary as a backup running back. I figure maybe, if he was a $2,500 play, I would consider it. see if they go a bit of a dual back system that might work out, but I think him hitting 12.5 points is going to be really tough to hit. So don't go that direction is my best advice for this week. Anthony Coombs, everyone's favorite running back, who's not actually a running back. He does play slot back for the Red Blacks. I'm also staying away red light on Coombs at $45.99 salary. Last game for Coombs was 7.6. Game before that 1.8. 2 games ago, or 3 games ago, I guess at this point, 11 points for him. So he's had a couple weeks where he has put up close to it, if not full value, but we don't know what the quarterback situation will be for Ottawa this week. Caleb Evans will start. I wouldn't be surprised to see Duck Hodges come in and play a little bit. Coombs hasn't had fantastic games necessarily with Evans at QB. It's hard to guess who's going to be Hodges' favorite receiver. So I say stay away from Coombs. I think there's better running back options, especially around the cheaper price point, as I mentioned already. And if you really want to punt it at the running back position, I think there's 2 potentially good plays. I always put Jamal Morrow as a potentially good option every week because $2,500, all you want is 6.3 points out of him. I mean, you want 20. If you can get 20, you'll take 20. Let's be real. But if you get 6.3, he's still helping you get to a 100-point week. So he's averaged 5.1 through 6 games on the year. Hasn't really had a big game like we've seen other return men like Devontae Dedmon, but he's put up in all of his games really this year, in 5-6 games, he's put up at least 4.7 points in all but one of those, which is pretty close to the full value. He's only hit the full value and put up 7.8 once, but he does come close, so I wouldn't greenlight it. I think there's some good cheap options this week that doesn't make him a go-to play just to save some salary, but I think he could be there if you are in a pinch. And then the other one is Rock Thomas of the Calgary Stampeders. Led all running backs last week, is the backup to Kadeem Carey, presumably once again this week. Having taken that job kind of from Ante Milanovic-Litre. Led all running backs in points last week with a 16.1 point performance, which was largely due to a 100-something yard kick return to start the second half. That's tempting to put him in your lineup. If he's handling some kick returns and he's getting in, I think he got a couple carries, maybe even a catch or 2 in that game as well. That's tempting for a backup running back at $2,500. Not going to lie, very tempting play this week. My concern is who does return kicks for Calgary this game. Will he actually be doing that? Because they have so many different guys that have rotated through the kick return position this year. And the problem with Calgary is they don't list on the depth chart who it's going to be. So if you're banking on that and he doesn't, I could see a situation where Thomas puts a 0 or even just 1 point up on the week from just getting 1 or 2 carries this game. So I think there's potential for a great week and a real money saver here, but I think there's potential for him to get buried in that depth chart and not be worth playing for you this week. So those are your options at running back for week number 12. Again, favorite ones this week are DJ Foster and Brady Oliveira, but I think there are some other pretty decent options to consider this week as well. And of course, a couple of the ones I've mentioned that you should stay away from. If you missed it, go back, check out my Week 12 quarterback preview. That's out already on the channel. And stay tuned. On Thursday, I'll have a wide receiver and defensive preview as well to get you all set for week number 12. And then a depth chart update on Friday to help you finish locking in those lineups. Do all the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you liked, what you didn't. If you have any fantasy questions, put them in the comments section or tweet them at me at CooperTrooper42 on Twitter. Link to that's in the description. And if you want to play CFL Fantasy alongside myself and other viewers, there's a link in the description as well to the Canadian Football Fantasy Fix group over on the official CFL Fantasy site. You can play alongside myself and other viewers this week and every week throughout the 2021 CFL season. As always, thanks for watching. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.